Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I'm going away with Rosie tonight, so I thought I'd just record a video talking about Enfield, and specifically Avi Wena, and in how I believe she's almost a bridge between the old Enfield we had in the first test to the Enfield we have today. And what I mean by that bridge, I mean specifically with her Thunder Lances within a kit, and how it introduces a element of spatial awareness and spatial strategy within the game that a lot of the other characters don't necessarily have, and it was something that we kind of lost from the first alpha test. Now, don't get me wrong, I think what we have now is a more optimal game design, because I don't think that would have worked in the long run, but there was some really interesting and cool elements to it, right? You know, the whole extra level of strategy in having much more control over your skills and the slowdown, and really having a more controllable feel to it, you know, very much more malleable than I suppose what we have now, where it's more about, I guess in a sense, a extra layer of rotations. It's not quite your typical rotations, but, you know, working through a system that definitely has more roots. You know, within Enfield, it's not just a one straight rotation for the most part. You can play around with it a little bit, which I really like, but it's definitely a little bit more akin to that, where Avywenna offers a different way of playing the game, and she's incredibly unique, and I'd love to see more units built specifically around the idea of that controllable utility. So it stops operators just being like stat packages with cooldown skills, but like it gives player driven tools, if that makes sense. It goes from like just being skill timing into spatial strategy awareness. If you didn't know, I'm sure you do, you can drop down a Thunder Lances and you can pull them back in, right? And correct me if I'm wrong now, I can't remember if you could drop down 3 standard ones and the ultimate one, or 2 standard ones and the ultimate one all at the same time, and then draw them all back in. So this adds in this level of dropping down the skill, repositioning, and then playing off it there, or even waiting for a while, stacking multiple, and then if you're playing something where there's waves of characters, waiting for the particular right character to use it on to really benefit you the most. And I think if you start to see more characters like that, it'll introduce a whole new way of playing the game, because most gacha games, what happens is a new character comes out, they have something unique in the kit or interesting, you learn it for the first day, and then the game goes back to playing pretty much the same way as it was played the day before, right? You know, they might be a little bit more powerful, or they might work with the gimmick of the patch, and that feels good, but ultimately, you're playing the game in very much the same way. It's just a new unit that slots into a new synergy with a standard team that you've already got, and that's it. You don't really play the game massively different. But with something like Avywenna and characters being designed like Avywenna, in terms of like this positional type of gameplay where it's literally mechanical change, you're playing the stage physically in terms of the spatial positioning within the stage, it changes the game totally for me. And then it introduces this idea of really leaning into stage mechanics. Now, I know in the Umbral Monument now we've got like the damage over time, but I mean proper stage mechanics akin to like an MMO, because Arknights, one of the things that it really shines in is stage mechanics, keeping the game fresh to this day. It's a tower defense game, which is different, right? It feels sad, it feels wrong to call Arknights a tower defense game, because it's much more. But stage mechanics introduce so much variety into Arknights. You can have the same team in multiple stages, but the way you play the game is infinitely different because of these unique stage mechanics. And I think having kits that really introduce spatial timing and spatial awareness and positioning and all this sort of stuff could really bring up some cool stage mechanics where they can either play against you, or you can use them to your advantage along with these extra layers of these kits. So the skill ceiling actually has so much more of a height to it than just perfect rotations to maximize DPS, because then actual positioning is a major thing, and working off your surroundings and all that sort of stuff. You know, obviously, you know, it brings in preparation, timing, positioning the enemies, you know, aiming things. And then obviously if we've got different characters that have these sort of kits all working together and potentially benefiting off each other's utility and the positioning of each other's utility, I think it really could really bring something into the game that keeps it feeling fresh, like, and I mean really fresh as well, actually feeling like the game's evolving rather than just you've got an evolving stat pad of characters. You know, because it goes from when should I just press the skill to like what geometry do I want the fight to become, like where am I? How do I position myself? When do I get into this position? How do I play off the enemies in the stage? And for me, that's like I suppose like a huge philosophical shift in how you're thinking about playing the game, like literally, rather than just okay, I've added this new operator in, I've found a new meta rotation, let's rotate. So, you know, directional control's a big thing, environmental reactions, field placement, all these sort of things. I've got a few bullet points that I've just threw down here for me to remember. And I think Hypergryph really created, I think, probably the most interesting character in Avywenna in Enfield. Now, she's not the coolest look. Well, she does look great, actually. She looks fucking great. But, you know, you've got Levitane, you've got Serta, you've got Gilberta, who's cracked, you know, you've got Yvonne, you've got all these cool characters, you know, you've got Helga, who are all awesome in their own right. And I don't want every character to be an Avywenna, where it's all about that extra level of positional awareness and timing, not just in your skill rotations, but timing in where you're getting yourself in the fight and how you're tackling things. But I would like there to be a good chunk of those units, and I hope that Hypergryph really builds on from Avywenna, because again, as I say, it's when you've got controllable utility, like it just creates scale to like things like prediction, geometry, multitasking, execution, rather than just okay, let's just lay onto these enemies and let's just go through the skills in the right order. It adds that sort of real-time strategy. It's not an RTS, but like it really does, and I just find it much more interesting to play as Avywenna than anybody else in the game. Now, there's lots of fun characters in the game, like, you know, popping the shield guards with Helga, Pogna Chick for the people who didn't play Arknights. It's just insanely fun, right? And there's a lot of units that are just a lot of fun to use in the game. But Avywenna, for me, really is unique, and I hope that we see more of it. You know, allowing us to have area denial, you know, manipulation of the battlefield, counters to positions of the enemies to try and, if we do start to get much more mobile enemies, we can kind of cut off parts of the map with this utility. You know, like plan for it, that we know an enemy's about to do this particular thing where they start to shift around the map that can cause us problems. We're ready. We'll place this thing down. We know they're about to do this. They do it. We lock in and we go, kind of thing. And I think that really would be a really cool thing for the game if it goes down that route. And it makes me hope that that's the plan, right? To have physical gameplay changes rather than just kit changes, you know, and it's all about, oh, this new character stacks something in a different way, and if you add it in this team, extra damage, you know. I want literal physical mechanical changes to the game, so I am doing different things because I've got a new character in the team and it works in a real different way than the previous team member. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think about that, guys. What do you think about Avywenna, her kit, and the potential of more characters like her that really lean in this spatial awareness or this spatial strategy kind of gameplay? Because to me, that is adding strategy into action combat. Because if everything does just become about synergy and rotating and stacks, I suppose you can say there's strategy to it, because of course there is, right? But it's very surface level, right? When you start adding positioning, you know, spatial awareness, playing off the map, having these utilities that you can drop down preemptively and wait for the enemies to do particular things and then jump on them with those utilities through summons. Because I suppose in a sense, her lances kind of are like pseudo summons in a way when you think about it. And I just think that'll be a real interesting way to see the game go, because it's true gameplay progression rather than just meta progression. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think down below. Sorry, I'm just rambling on. I just put a few bullet points down here because I've been thinking about it the last few days, and I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think about this. And just going back to it again, like, if we had multiple characters like Avywenna and we start to have these controllable, you know, spatially aware utilities, and we start to overlap them, like, I'm just thinking about it now, man. Like, the potential could be really, really fun and really cool, and really add in a lot of strategy and pre-planning as well. Because this game is based on pre-planning, right, with your teams and stuff. But really, you know, each fight you would tackle it differently with the different types of characters, because their utility works really well against a super mobile enemy or whatever it might be. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I'd love to know what you think down below about everything I've said. And yeah, have you got any ideas of particular kind of characters that could be introduced? I'd love to know. I like these sort of conversations. And hopefully this is the route Hypergryph takes, at least with some of the units, to really add some uniqueness into the game. Because I do believe Avywenna is incredibly unique in this game, and I love it. And I think she's the most satisfying unit to play in the game, actually, personally for me. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all in the next one. Yeah.